Hello, and welcome to another edition of the NRS Insights podcast. I'm John Lovestock, and today, what a shocker, I'm joined by Susie Silliman, the Senior Vice President of Data Strategy and Sales at NRS, and Brandon Thurber, who is the Vice President of Data Sales and Client Success at the National Retail Solutions. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing?
Good,
Doing
how are
well.
you?
Good, good. I'm glad you could both join me again. And this is like our third year of doing this, so good to see you both again. I had a chance to look over the report, and from the numbers that I saw, NRS Insights reported a 3.5% year-over-year increase in same-store sales for February 2025, following a 4.7 rise in January. And the NRS retail network, which now serves more than 30,000 independent retailers that processed $1.7 billion in sales, marking a 14% increase compared to the previous year. So that's pretty cool. The data you guys are getting is really, really spot on. So overall, the NRS Insights report emphasizes the resilience of the dollar despite fluctuations in basket size and unit sales. And for the month, we always track, or I like to track the categories, and it looks like smokeless tobacco, tequila, and beverages displayed strong year-on-year growth. So with that, I want to turn it over to the experts and get some insights from Susie and Brandon. So I'll let you go ahead. Susie,
Thanks, Sean.
Brandon.
So you hit on the smokeless tobacco. I mean that is, as we've said before, very much driven by the alternative nicotine brands that continue to become more popular. They are, bringing probably a few more people to the category, as well as converting some longer-term nicotine users to that product. So it's interesting to watch that grow. And I think in the next probably 6 to 12 months, we will see not only single brand growth, but some more category proliferation.
Okay. And now, do we account, Susie, it was a shorter month, so 28 days in February, as the saying goes, right? All the day, anyway, I don't know.
Right, it
30
was
days.
28 days, but last year was a leap year, so
Hmm.
we did adjust for that. So made it the sort of equivalent of 28 days versus 28 days. So the numbers that we are reviewing reflect that equalization.
Okay. So, just looking at those numbers, and I don't know, Brandon or Susie, could we talk a little bit about categories this month? I think I saw that gum sales were down for the first time in quite a while.
Yes, that is correct. This is the first month in a long-term trend, a long-term recovery trend from gum that we are seeing a year-over-year decline in gum sales. So, has that category sort of plateaued for its recovery? Um, you know, it remains to be seen. One month in isolation is not enough data to draw
Hmm.
very convincing conclusions from. So, it really comes down to, John, tracking March, tracking April, and seeing what happens with gum in, in the out months.
Okay. And since we talk a lot about the GLPs and some of the diet drugs, you would think that gum would be on the rise as people are kind of eating and snacking less. Chewing gum has always been kind of a staple for dieters.
And Brandon can attest to this. In terms of the categories for 20 2024 that saw the most upside through the NRS network, gum was one of the top categories.
Okay.
So it was going strong, and then this last month, um, again, was the first month we saw a softening.
Okay. Brandon, one of the things you and I had talked about quite a bit on some of these recent podcasts was the both non-alcoholic drinks and kind of the spirits, the canned spirits, what are they called? The vodka and
Prepared cocktails.
yeah, the cocktails. How did those do? How are those looking?
So, interesting turn here in year to date in our network. Beer is down a little bit, and that is interesting because our basket size doesn't really fluctuate all that much, as you mentioned at the very beginning. We're up to about $15 a basket, but where is that coming from, or what's growing, what's declining? Prepared cocktails, it still seems to be a beverage of choice. It's our second fastest growing category, dollar difference this year versus last year. It's up like 30%. So those definitely appeal to the consumer in terms of flavor and selection, definitely. And then wine-based cocktails are also on the rise. And those are typically, I would say, probably a bit of a younger consumer, a bit of a different occasion, maybe more of a party type beverage, but those are growing also.
Okay.
Not on the non-alcoholic side, it's worth noting that energy beverages do seem to be back. They are growing with some pretty good numbers. And soft drinks, everybody said, soft drinks are dead. Everybody wants to go to the alternative, or we're drinking water more. But both last year was a top growing category in our stores, and this year it's off to a strong start. So that could be folks, drinking kind of the things that fall into soft drinks, but are alternatives. But all in all, it's a strong category.
I had a little bit of a cold in February, so if beer numbers are down, beer sales were down, it could be because of me. So I apologize to the industry for that.
And interesting, vitamins and supplements were up. So maybe you were um, infusing some vitamins and supplements to address
Hmm.
that cold too.
Vitamins. What are those? Not sure I know what those are. Um, the interesting thing I saw recently was there was a story, I think it was in the New York Times, about the number of beer manufacturers that are coming out with non-alcoholic beers. It seems that every major beer brand now has a line extension of a zero alcohol beer, which is kind of crazy. I never would have thought that a few years ago.
We think that's smart
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
because
it's
it really,
definitely.
yeah,
Go ahead, Susie.
it really isn't an element of cannibalization for a a brand's product line. If you want to have that non-alcoholic beer, even if you want to sort of rotate between the two, you're going to buy it. So not having the brand of choice in a non-alcoholic version just means you're going to lose sales to a competitor.
Okay. Now, for our convenience store retailers that are listening in here, I'm gonna kind of throw a curveball at you guys and put you on the spot. Something I forgot to bring up in our pre-call, but you may be seeing this now, is that the rise of or the attention to microplastics and the health the impact on your health in plastic bottles and plastic bowls and the delivery methods of the foods we eat and the drinks we drink. Are you starting to see some of these stories?
Like news stories I have
Yes.
seen. Yes.
So do you think that could have a long-term effect, especially on a category like bottled water, let's say? I mean, I drink, it's the one healthy thing I do personally all the time is I'm always drinking a bottle of water. I always have a bottle of water with me. But now I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting all these microplastics. I don't even know what they are, but I'm worried about them now.
That can always have an impact on sales, right? It comes down to how dangerous are they, over what length of time, is
Hmm.
it, over your entire longevity of your life, or is it over a 10-year period or a 5-year period? And what really are the long-term risks? And I'll
We'll find out.
use other, you know, categories as examples where there's known published risks on the packaging, and that has some impact on consumer sales, but not
Hmm.
it 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 doesn't it has not put any category out of business.
And
Well said.
that's, I think, furthermore, where the transactional data is even more powerful. Because in an interview and a survey, you may say one thing and it may sound really good, but we all know that we spend differently than we talk. So tracking the data and looking at it, water is not a category that is suffering.
I've been on that soapbox for years because we used to actually, Susie, that's something you
Yep.
and I did together.
Yep.
We were polling customers with our CCI panel,
Yep.
and we found that almost to a person they all lied. If you got fresh food, would oh my God, I want to eat healthy, and then no, they lied. They didn't want to eat healthy. They wanted their pizza and chicken tenders and French fries and uh,
Right.
chips.
The intent versus the decision was often two entirely different stories.
Hmm. And that's to be, I mean, I don't think they intentionally did it. I think that if you ask somebody, would you rather eat healthy? They'd say, yes, I'd rather
Yep.
eat healthy until you're starving. And then a burger sounds really good. All right. So now as we move into March and April, obviously we're getting into the warmer months, on the coasts and anything emerging from the data you guys are looking at, anything worth keeping an eye on other than the stuff we've talked about.
So in general, at the highest level, we saw very consistent DMA performance. Like it was not just a handful of DMAs that outproduced this year that sort of drove that trend. We're seeing almost all DMAs show some notable growth, including 23 of the top 25 largest DMAs. So again, in February, the performance that we saw across the NRS network, we were seeing at a more granular level down to the DMAs across the US.
Okay.
And I'll just add that as it heats up, sports drinks become typically more of a consumer choice, but we haven't always seen that in the last 12 months. So that is something that we definitely want to keep an eye on. And then as we get into April and May, the lighter beers, the flavored seltzers, those things start to take off as well. So those will be beverages that we'll be keeping an eye on.
All right. And then I imagine these months will also start being a good time for retailers to start ramping up on the barbecue stuff, the charcoal and the lighter fluid and all the the accessories that go along with the spring and
Yep.
summer months.
We really start seeing an upward trend um, beginning end of May for those product categories,
Mhm.
even including condiments. So you often don't think about condiments and convenience stores, but you know, at a moment of need, at a moment of convenience, etc., you're going to a picnic or you're having a home barbecue, having those products on the shelf do sell
Mhm.
during barbecue season.
We've all been there looking around going, who's supposed to bring the mustard? And hit the 7-Eleven.
The other thing I do want to add is since February was also Valentine's Day, that from a category perspective, we noticed chocolate sales having an increase and still wine having an increase over 2024. However, confectionery sales and sparkling wine and champagne did not. So they actually showed a decline from 2024. But sort of hats off to
Hmm.
chocolate and to still wine that had a very good seasonal month.
And it's gonna carry through, right? I'm seeing Cadbury eggs everywhere now. And if you haven't had a Cadbury egg, it's like one of the few items that and Reese's, that chocolate, I gotta go. Whenever I see it, I gotta buy it. It's really good.
And
All
I
right.
think I
Oh.
think that those items started hitting the shelves like the day after Valentine's Day.
Smart. All right, Brandon, any closing thoughts?
No, just stay tuned to future insights. You can set your Google alerts to the NRS same store sales report or go to our parent company, IDT.net, for the monthly release.
Thank you, Brandon. You stole that from me. I always like to like to end by saying, Brandon, where could we find the report? So I guess I'll have to ask, does my beard look as white as it looks in my camera?
It looks white.
Oh man, I got to do something about that. Oh well, that's what you get
Just
for
take a
being on the.
Sharpie to it.
I'm gonna have to do that. All right. Well, for Susie and Brandon, I'm John Lovestock. I want to thank you guys for listening in on another episode of the NRS Insights podcast. And we hope you join us next month when we discuss the March numbers. Have a good afternoon, everyone.